Finally, I want to talk about the relationship between store, dispatch, and action keywords. Dispatch helps to answer the second question, how to update state. Dispatch is a member of store. It receives action object as a parameter. Dispatch transfers this action into this counter reducer as a second parameter. Let me remind you that the first parameter is the state object. Currently, state object has count equal to 0. For that reason, we see 0 here. Action parameter is an object with type property equal to decrement, just similar to action here. Since current state is an object rather than undefined, this part of code is ignored. Switch case is a normal JavaScript, so I will not explain details about it. This syntax is just similar to this syntax. We use switch case syntax because it is shorter. Action.type is not sum. Then this block of codes is also ignored. Action.type is decrement. Then this block of codes is executed to update state. Object.assign method is a feature of ES6. I will talk in detail about this method in the other section. In this section, I just describe briefly about the meaning of this code. It helps to clone a new object from this current state object and assign to var next state. Count of current state is 0. The result of 0 decreased by 1 will be -1. At this point, this current state parameter is unchanged, but the next state variable is updated like this. As I mentioned before, we are not allowed to change the current state directly. So we need to use object.assign method to clone current state into var next state for that reason. If you use this expression rather than object.assign, current state and next state will refer to the same object. In this case, if you change a property of next state, the current state is also changed correspondingly. It is not allowed to change the current state like this. After state object is updated, render method is invoked implicitly thanks to store.subscribe method as I explain here. This render method helps to attach the new information of state into HTML element again and show on the browser this value correspondingly. So far, I've finished answering the question how to update state. Let's start to write code for it. First, I use store.dispatch with an action object as a parameter to trigger updating. Next, I'm going to write more code for counter reducer in order to process updating state based on action parameter from dispatch. We need to write the action parameter here to use it. Let me console log some information to show the logic of updating in Redux. Let's refresh the browser and click the decrease button to see the result. When I click the decrease button, the state is updated into the object with count equal to -1. However, we don't see this value change correspondingly. The reason is that this render method has not been invoked again to update this HTML element based on the new state. As I mentioned before, we need to use store.subscribe method to help invoke render method every time state is updated. Let me comment that this store.subscribe belongs to step 1.3. Let's check the browser again. It works well as expected now. Since dispatch and action are the important keywords in Redux library, I want to console log dispatch and action to show the logic of updating state. Let's refresh the browser again. I'm going to click the decrease button to make this value decrease and show some console log. You can see this console log to review the relationship between dispatch, action, reducer, and state. In summary, I use dispatch with parameter being an action in order to trigger updating. Dispatch passes an action as the second parameter of reducer. Based on the current state and the action, reducer returns a result correspondingly, which will be updated state. Let's click decrease button again. The result is also as expected. Please press the pause button to stop this video temporarily and look at this information to review again by yourself. I want to make a comment that dispatch action belongs to step 2.1. I'm going to give some notes to help you review knowledge of Redux quickly, just by looking at this flowchart. Let me test with another action. I want to update the sum property of state to be a sum of A and B here. This action has type equal to sum. So I need to add one more case for sum. Sum will be equal to action.a plus action.b. Let's refresh the browser to check it. When I click this button, the dispatch method is executed to trigger updating state. This action has type equal to sum. Then this block of codes is ignored. This block of codes is executed to update the state like this. In the action object, A equal to 10, B equal to 15. Sum of 10 and 15 will be 25 as expected. So far, I'm finished giving the introduction about Redux. Let me summarize the knowledge of Redux in this section. The most important features of Redux library are store, state, reducer, dispatch, and action. Render method uses information from state to display on the browser. For example, count property of state is attached into an HTML element to show value 0 on the browser here. We are not allowed to set value for state directly. Instead, we set the default value for state here. We trigger updating state by using dispatch method in order to transfer action into reducer method as the second parameter. Based on the current state and the action, this reducer process is updating the state through the returning result here. In the next section, I will assign an exercise to help you reinforce your knowledge. You will become familiar with Redux quickly after you finish the exercise by yourself. Before stopping this video, I want to remove the code related to this sum property, since it is not related to this HTML.